I want to do a quick word on HHO, or hydroxy hydrogen, whatever you want to call it. I know we got the deal where we take these plates and we split off, into the water just by brute force into hydrogen, hydrogen, oxygen. H2O becomes into its basic elements, hydrogen, oxygen, and that does work pretty good. Actually, the stuff I seen from years ago when we were using the mason cells and stuff with the plates inside, the wet cells, they weren't even too bad. There were they were working okay with people. But I'm going to get on with something here. I know about the dry cells. That's definitely the way to go. A dry cell is the edges of the plates are not exposed to the solution. It's inside. They're like gaskets. I don't have it. I got it on my car, like in a Jeep, but I just want to get on with a couple things here, because I saw one experiment where people were using dissimilar metals, copper and stainless steel. When they put the positive on the copper, the electrode on a copper, and they put the negative on a stainless steel, the copper turned to corrosion real fast, right, inside of a minute. And when they reversed the leads, when they put the negative on the copper and the positive on the stainless steel, the copper stayed clean even after 30 minutes. Well, what's going on is actually the negative is producing hydrogen and the positive side is producing the oxygen. Pretty sure it is, but I'm trying to double check it, but I can't find a lot of information on the internet. But this is what I want to really get to. They have now something that, and it's cheap. I've seen it on eBay. I've seen other things where it does is it takes the HHO, where it splits water into, H2O into hydrogen, hydrogen, oxygen, its basic elements. It splits off the hydrogen and vents out the oxygen. So what's going on there is you're just going to put the hydrogen in the engine. Now, when I say why this is really, really, really good is because all the cars, the newer cars, at least from the 90s on, or even from the late 80s on, they're all computerized, they're all fuel injected, and when you put HHO into the intake, you're adding a little bit of oxygen, and the O2 sensor, the oxygen sensor on the emission controls, on the exhaust, senses this oxygen and says the mixture is too lean and it adds more fuel. So what happens is you don't get the mileage unless you tamper with the emission control system on a car, which is illegal, right? You're not allowed to do that by law, even though a lot of people are doing it. But if you take the HHO and you split off only the hydrogen, and these devices are only like 30 to 50 bucks. That's all they are. That's all they are. Cheaper than buying a MAP sensor, a EFI sensor to adjust your electronic fuel injection. It's way cheaper than buying chips, Velo chips, or anything like that. In other words, just inject plain hydrogen into the car, and your emissions system is not going to sense any extra oxygen. It's only going to see fuel, and you should get better mileage right there. Now, what kind of mileage to expect from these devices? I think they're only like 5 to 15%. I don't know. I heard them going way up there and stuff. But the thing is, once you put them in, the problem is finding room to make the installation. Once you put it in the Jeep, it was easy. I had a lot of room to make the installation. On the Sebring convertible, there's no room to work in there. Even with stock, I'm probably going to have to put it under the bumper someplace. I'm not sure. I'm not going to jump into that right away. But I know how I'm going to approach this now. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to try to modify anything on the emission control system on a car at all. So it'll be 100% strictly legal. I'm just going to get a regular 16-plate unit, probably from Liberator. I don't know. They had 100% good feedback on eBay. I'm, reasonably priced, $165. We went the whole kit, and add this other thing on there that splits the hydrogen into the oxygen, the hydrogen and oxygen, and vents out the oxygen. It's only like $30. And when you do that, it's also another safety feature because it acts as something else that it's going through. So if you actually, hydrogen is highly explosive, but what we do is you don't store it, you make it on demand. You make it on demand. Or HHO is even more explosive than hydrogen, but you make it on demand in small quantities and it gets directly burned up into the carburetor. But this device that splits off the hydrogen and oxygen into two separate elements and just vents off the oxygen, which is good for the air, is actually, it's no maintenance practically. Every 10,000 miles you take it out and you wash it out with vinegar. You let it soak in some vinegar and then you dry it all out and make sure it's dry. You put it back in, it's good for another 10,000 miles. Never wears out. So you can't beat that. I tell you that right now. So I just want to put this out here because that's going to be my plans instead. Because I was wondering how the hell I could do that on other cars. I wasn't even going to bother trying to put it on cars with fuel injection and computers because it gets involved with a lot of bullshit. I was thinking about putting a really small unit on there and just trying it out. But now I realize I can put the proper size HHO unit on there, and if I split the HHO into the result that comes out into hydrogen, inject the hydrogen, and vent the oxygen, well, that should not affect the computer controls in the least. And that's what you want to do. So, anyway, I also want to say here as a footnote, if you try to store HHO, it's dangerous as all hell. You can't store that stuff. Hydrogen is dangerous to store, but it can be stored in the right conditions, the right containers and stuff like that, right? HHO, that stuff can go off. That stuff is far more volatile than actually hydrogen. That's why you never, ever, ever store that. But there's a caveat I saw where they have these storage containers for hydrogen only, right? And you can run a car off of that, no problem. The problem is some of the materials used in these hydrogen containers is not allowed to be used by the public. And that's another problem. But that would actually be the whole solution right there. If you got solar panels, you make HHO and then you vent off. You split the HHO into hydrogen and oxygen. You vent off the oxygen. You store the hydrogen in tanks, and then you fill up your car with that. If you put that, or you just fill it into your car, that would be the deal. That would be the deal. Then you run it for free. But, I'm going to tell you, it does look like there's a damn conspiracy. I'll tell you that right now. But, you got to go in baby steps, and I'm thinking, well, here's the next baby step. The next baby step is you get yourself a good quality dry cell on your computerized car. The standard stuff, something from a vendor that's got a good reputation. I got the one from Liberator. I mean, there's a lot of other ones out there, right? Somebody's got a good reputation. Stuff that once you install it, you don't have to do a damn thing to it. And you can put like 100% lye, or use KOH or whatever, one or the other. And you can also, I heard in severe winter problem, you can put isopropyl alcohol in it. You're okay with that. It's okay with that. In severe cold where it freezes. But the thing is, with the computerized car, I just want to repeat that again. They got these devices that pretty much are maintenance free. I mean, every 10,000 miles, you take them out and clean them off with vinegar and dry them out. It'll split the HHO into hydrogen and oxygen, and you take the oxygen side, and you have that go in the inlet, and you ain't got to mess with the computer at all. Nothing. So now I already know the next approach for the next step, but I'm not going to jump on that immediately. I did one. I'm going to be testing that one further. And I take things in baby steps, but I want to pass this information on because that is definitely the way to go versus buying chips and doing all this other modifications that it's actually illegal. You know, you're keeping the car 100% emissions legal all the way. You're not modifying anything. And if you split off that hydrogen, which with a $30 to $50 device, well, that's the part you need, man. You need the hydrogen, right? You need the hydrogen. Now, the way this really works is you're not getting more energy. You're not actually using energy to produce more energy. I gotta put this on the end here. You're not saying, like, I'm going to put so much electricity into these brute force plates, stainless steel plates, and produce HHO out of it, and say I'm getting more out of it than I put into it. Now, I know Stanley Meyer did do something like that with frequencies, and that's a hidden secret, but we don't know what that is. We just know plain electricity. But the thing is, where it's giving you better mileage is this. It's giving you a more complete burn of the existing fuel that you have in your car. So when you put in the air-fuel mixture and you add a little hydrogen, just a little bit of hydrogen, it gives you a more complete burn. That's why it brings down the emissions and gives you more mileage. It's not that you're adding so much fuel. You're helping to burn the existing fuel that you put in the car more efficiently. That's what's working. That's why it works. But don't expect double mileage or something. I mean, I know there's a couple people that say they got that. I don't know. I got better mileage on the Jeep right away, but part of it was the Toyota carburetor. But I says, between the two of those damn things, with the new carburetor modification and the HHO, thing's getting 30 miles to the gallon. I've had that thing since 1987, and it's never got that kind of mileage ever. So that's telling me, it's working. So anyway, it's not a bad thing to do. Keep it simple, stupid. Let's leave you with that, because I wish I did know what the secret formula was to break off the hydrogen out of the water with frequencies like Stanley Meyer did. But, I look at some of those old videos of what he did, and I'm thinking, he's got his Jesus is Lord out there, and he's telling you all this shit about how the, when they press the gas pedal down, and they got to add more, and the computer does is. The only part I would really be interested in is, what were the frequencies that he used to break the hydrogen off the water more efficiently? Now, the only thing I do know from some of his stuff is he used low amps and a higher voltage. When he had those tubes inside the tubes on a Stanley Meyer cell, if you had 4 sets of tubes with the Stanley Meyer cell, instead of using 12 volts, you'd be using 48 volts at a lower amperage. I know that's one of the little secrets, and I'll just put that out there. So you would use an inverter if you were using a Stanley Myers type setup, but he used frequencies too, and I don't know what those frequencies are. I heard a lot of stupid stuff out there that it's somewhere around the range of the frequencies that the microwaves use, because that's what agitates water. I don't know. But I'm going to keep it simple for now. The point of this video is you can actually separate the hydrogen from the HHO cheaply. And when that happens, you just inject only the hydrogen into the computer controlled car with the fuel injection. You don't have to do any modifications to the IFI, the map sensor, the O2 sensor. No modifications, because the computer is not going to sense any hot oxygen. It's only going to be fuel, and you should get some kind of mileage. And the only reason you're getting more mileage again is because it's giving you a more complete burn of the existing fuel. It's not actually adding so much energy fuel. You got this existing fuel that's in there. It burns it up. It's got a spark plug. It's got a certain combustion chamber design. It burns it up pretty completely. It's pretty good. But when you add a little hydrogen to it, it's a more complete burn. That's why you're getting more mileage, more efficiency, and lower emissions. So it's actually green earth stuff too, besides. Anyway, we're going to pass this on because it's so simple, so cheap, And this makes HHO simpler for everybody now because, when this stuff was going on, I think in 2007, 2008, around there, when it was really taking off. Already that's 6 years ago. So, cars that were 20 years old back then, you might have found some, 1988 cars that were carburetors or something, right? Now they're 26 years old, right? So, pretty much everybody's got a computerized car now except me, I got a couple that aren't. But, this is the way to do it. Get that thing that splits it off. It's just $30, $50, that's the range. That's all it is. Takes HHO, it gives you only the hydrogen. You just inject the hydrogen. You don't have any modifications to your car at all. None. And you should get some gains. Keep it simple, stupid, man. That's all I gotta say.